I could hear the hairdryer running in the bathroom, so I knew my wife, Stacy, didn't need privacy. However, I wanted to be polite, so I asked through the closed door, "Honey, can I come in? I need to pee." The hairdryer was silent for a moment before she answered, "Yes," and then started working again. I opened the door and entered. Stacy stood in front of the mirror, drying her long blonde hair. She was completely naked. Her skin still had a healthy glow after her shower. Tall and slender with B-cup breasts, she looked amazing. Some people compared her appearance to Brie Larson, only taller. As I emptied my bladder, I continued to look at my gorgeous wife. At such moments, I realize how lucky I am. She eventually noticed that I was looking at her. "What are you staring at?" "You've seen me naked before," she asked with a smile. "Yes, I know. You just look especially good today." "Thank you. I feel great." This trip to Barbados could not have come at a better time. The last few months at the firm have been terrible, and getting away from work for a couple of weeks will recharge my batteries. Stacy is a lawyer, and she has had a lot of cases. She is not only beautiful, but also smart. Stacy had finished drying her hair and was now putting on her makeup. She leaned closer to the mirror, bending slightly at the waist, perfectly showing off her curved buttocks. Will we have time for quick sex, I thought. After 15 years of marriage, she knew me very well. She looked away from the mirror for a moment and looked back at me, smiling. "Forget it, big boy," she purred. "You can take your eyes off my ass. You know I rarely say no, but we have a morning flight. I promise I'll make up for it when we get to our resort. We will have a lot of time in the next 2 weeks, and we can make love all day long if you have the strength." "Oh, I have enough strength," I replied. "Okay, honey, let's leave it to Barbados. But I warn you, for the next 2 weeks, I will do whatever I want with you." "I'm fine with that," she replied as we left the bathroom together. "In fact, let's consider this vacation a second honeymoon. Let's make a bet which of us will be the first to get tired of sex." "It's coming," I agreed happily. "At a minimum, we will do this at least once a day. The first person to say, 'Not today,' or 'I'm not in the mood,' or something like that will cause us to not have sex all day will lose." "He's coming," she laughed as we playfully shook hands to seal the bet. "For me, once a day will be easy. You will have to be on alert every day. What are we putting at stake?" "Money." I thought for a couple of seconds, and then blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "No, not money. The winner can ask for anything, and the loser must comply." Stacy's eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, this could be something really weird. This idea came to you right after you were staring at my ass. But it doesn't matter. I know I will win this bet. However, to be clear, nothing too crazy. For example, I will never agree to sex with several people unless, of course, you are stupid enough to think about it. I will, and I would never want you to be involved in this. But I'll think of something else for both of us. And you should also come up with something in case you win, which is unlikely." "Okay, I agree. Now we better get ready. Bob and Carol will be here soon with a taxi." Bob and Carol Anderson are our closest friends and will be joining us for the holiday. Carol is also a lawyer, like Stacy, and they work together in the same office. Bob is an engineer. When the taxi arrived, Stacy and I were already packed and ready. Stacy wore tight white capri pants and a sleeveless white turtleneck sweater. She also wore oversized sunglasses and wore her hair in a ponytail. She looked like a movie star. Bob didn't try to hide his admiration as he looked at my wife. But Carol cannot be called ugly either. She's brunette, a little shorter than Stacy, and maybe 5 pounds heavier than she should be. But she has a pretty face, a curvy body, perky breasts, and slender legs. Both of our wives usually attract lustful looks when the two of us go out. Our flight to Barbados departed exactly on schedule. Travel time from New York to Barbados is about 5 hours. Most people at some point get out of their seats and walk around the cabin a bit to stretch their legs. Stacy and Carol were going for a walk when Bob slid over and sat next to me. "How are you, buddy? Are you ready for a great time in beautiful Barbados?" he asked. "Yes, sure. We all need a break, especially our wives, and it will be nice to have a little change of scenery and get away from the cold weather for a while. Today in New York, the high will be 35 degrees, and in Bridgetown, it will be 82. I think the change of pace and warmer weather will make our women more relaxed. This should be good for us, just what the doctor ordered. As I said this, I looked pointedly at Bob and winked at him, and he nodded in agreement. I have to say, Stan, your Stacy is especially good today. You'll have to fend off other guys at the resort with a stick, including me, especially when she's by the pool in a bikini. I know that, but you have the same problem with Carol. She looks pretty good too. When these two are lying by the pool in bikinis, the guys will circle around them like bees around a flower. We just have to make sure the girls get everything they need from us. We don't want to give them any reason to flirt. Bob nodded in agreement. Speaking of giving them everything they need, I whispered, looking around to make sure no one, especially my wife, was listening. I need to tell you a secret. Stacy wants this vacation to be her second honeymoon. Bob whistled softly. You know what this means, don't you? He whispered back. Continuous sex for you, guy. You are very lucky, and I envy you. There's no need to be jealous, I continued in a whisper. You and Carol can have a second honeymoon too. Shake the soul out of her. We'll try. What do you have planned for Stacy? I plan everything in a simple way. We also made a bet on which one of us would be the first to say no. Stacy is a very determined woman, so there's no chance she'll let me win. She'd rather give me a heart attack from too much sex than lose. I don't want you to have a heart attack, so call me if you need help, Bob whispered, half jokingly. I will be happy to help a friend in need. This whole conversation about having frequent sex with Stacy got him excited. He would give anything to sleep with my wife. By the way, what do you have to pay if you lose the bet? I will have to fulfill any of her wishes or agree with anything, and I will not be able to refuse. Damn it, it could be anything. You better not lose. It would be better if Stacy lost, then you could make her do whatever you want. I have a couple of good suggestions for you. One thing in particular. Yes, I'm sure you came up with them, but don't get your hopes up, I snorted. I knew full well that Bob was attracted to my wife, and I also understood what kind of proposal he would make if I won. I looked to the back of the plane and saw our wives walking back down the aisle. Okay, the girls are coming this way, so you better get back to your seat. And remember, not a word about this to Carol, and no hints to Stacy. She would be angry if she found out that I told you all this. Your secret is in good hands, buddy. But don't forget that I'm here to help if you need it. What happens in Barbados stays in Barbados. Bob hurried back to his seat and Stacy sat down next to me again. You were away for a long time, I remarked. Was there a line to the toilet? We didn't use the toilets. There were a few empty rows of seats in the back, and Carol and I chatted for a long time, discussing women's affairs. Everything is fine? Stacy lowered her voice so only I could hear. Not really. Things aren't going well for Bob and Carol. She hopes this vacation will help them mend their relationship a little. Damn, this is not very good. What's happened? Basically, Bob is acting like a fool, that's all. Carol thinks he's having an affair with another woman at work, and he insists they have an open marriage. Open marriage? Nonsense. This is just an excuse to make it easier for him to walk to the left. Here's a clown. What advice did you give her? I'm not a psychologist, but I told her to try not to let the situation get out of control. But I have to ask you, what do you think of Carol? Do you like her? Yes, I like her. She's a sweet girl. Why are you asking? I mean, do you really like her? Would you sleep with her? I was taken aback by the sudden change in topic of conversation. Wait, Stacy. Where does this question come from? Carol really likes you, and she says Bob likes me, and she wonders if a spouse-swapping evening on our Barbados vacation will help them mend their relationship. What do you think about this? Bob is turning out to be an even bigger jerk than I thought, and I don't care if their relationship works out or not. First of all, I'm not going to swap wives with anyone. This is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Secondly, while Carol is definitely attractive, the thought of you being in bed with Bob makes me feel disgusted. He's a horny bastard. Thirdly, screw this. Why am I looking for reasons to say no? The answer is simple. It won't happen. Stacy snuggled up to me. That's what I told Carol, dear, but I wanted to hear it from you too. Thanks for the confidence. Bob's not that bad, but after what Carol told me, he'd be the last man on this plane I'd go to bed with. I put my arm around her shoulders and pulled her closer. Let's not interfere in their family problems. We are on our honeymoon, and I will need all my energy, physical and mental, to take care of my wife's needs. Besides, I don't want to be distracted and lose our bet. I suspect you would come up with some clever way to pay back. Ha, Stacy laughed. You know me too well. I'll win the bet, and I already have some ideas about what you'll have to do. Once I work out the details, it will be absolutely amazing, and I will enjoy it. I'm looking forward to starting. Games start tonight. I can't wait either, she giggled. The remainder of the flight passed without incident. We landed at Grantley Adams International Airport in southern Barbados, collected our belongings, cleared customs without any problems, and boarded a small shuttle bus that would take us to our resort in the St. Lawrence Gap area. I noticed Bob tried to sit next to Stacy on the 8-passenger bus, but she easily dodged him and sat alone by the window. I deliberately sat next to Carol, and she gave me a big smile, playfully bumping her shoulder. Yes, I could sleep with her, I thought. She is really very attractive. But why would I do this if I have such a hot wife like Stacy? The short drive to the resort was pleasant. We drove along narrow roads, sometimes along sugar cane fields, and admired the color of the trees and bushes, especially the magnificent multicolored hibiscus. We had just left the dreary gray landscape of late winter in New York City and found ourselves in a tropical paradise. I remembered the opening scenes from the movie The Wizard of Oz, where Kansas was black and white, and when Dorothy got to Oz, everything suddenly became technicolor. Stacy was delighted with what she saw and was already taking pictures with her camera. She looked at me and smiled brightly. Amazing, isn't it, dear? I already fell in love with this island. I smiled back and said, "This will be a great vacation." I felt that Stacy was in an upbeat, relaxed mood, which was a good sign for the next 14 days. Judging by very early signs of Stacy's mood, it was shaping up to be a busy second honeymoon. When we got off the bus at the resort, Stacy was already looking around and noticed a pool nearby with a pool bar. Beyond the pool was the Caribbean Sea with its striking turquoise water. We heard the quiet sound of the surf on the sandy beach. We were allocated a room on the first floor with access to the patio, which was only 20-30 yards from the pool. Bob and Carol were given a room next to ours. Stacy, the organizer, decided that the vacation needed to start as quickly as possible as we walked from the front desk to our rooms. This glorious sunlight is too good to waste, so let's get outside quickly. We can unpack and settle in later. Let's all change into our swimsuits and meet right away by the pool. Whoever arrives first reserves 4 sun loungers and orders 4 pina coladas. All agree? Sounds great, Carol replied. I can't wait to feel that heat on my skin. Carol was also in high spirits, which made me feel better after my anxious conversation with Stacy on the plane. Maybe a nice, relaxing vacation would help sort out her marital problems with Bob. We walked up to our rooms and parted ways with the other couple with a cheerful "see you soon" from Stacy. The room was unremarkable but clean and fresh, with a queen-size bed, small kitchenette, and bathroom with shower. This was going to be our home for the next 2 weeks, and that was fine with us. I opened the door and stepped out onto the patio. It was surrounded by beautiful flowers, and just a short walk across the lawn led to the pool. The sound of the surf became louder, but it was a relaxing, soothing sound. When I returned to the room, Stacy was already completely naked and rummaging through her suitcase for a bikini. The sight of her naked body, bent over again, awakened the same sexual desires that I had felt when I saw her naked in the bathroom earlier that day. I decided to try my luck. When you told the others, "see you soon," you didn't mean right away, did you? We have a few minutes, right? Stacy understood what I meant. We don't have time for what's on your mind, darling. There will be plenty of time for that later. Oh, I joked. Are you already saying no? I didn't expect to win our bet so quickly. Okay, you said no, and I won the bet. Wait, buddy, wait, Stacy replied. You caught me making a technical error. Okay, let's do something, but it has to be quick, otherwise Bob and Carol will get suspicious. I walked to the patio door, closed it, and drew the curtains. I'm fine with that. It won't take long. We had sex. Well, it was a good start to our honeymoon, she whispered, but now I really need a pina colada. Let's go down to the pool. I put on my swim trunks and Stacy put on a bikini that I had never seen before. It was pale blue and green, matching the color of her eyes perfectly. It wasn't too overt, but it didn't look conservative either. She and her swimsuit are sure to attract a lot of attention at the pool and on the beach. She put on a beach robe before heading out onto the patio. It covered her a little, but still left something to the imagination. I knew I would be the envy of a lot of guys over the next 2 weeks. Her usual oversized sunglasses, wide-brimmed hat, and bikini-colored slides completed her look. She looked like a movie star. We walked to the pool holding hands like young lovers. When we arrived at the pool, it was quite crowded, with about 90% of the suns occupied. There were also several people in the pool. Late winter and early spring are the busiest seasons in Barbados. It is at this time that tourists from the northern part of the USA and Canada, thirsty for sun and warmth after a long winter, flock in large numbers to the tropical island. Barbados is relatively expensive compared to other Caribbean islands, mainly because it is so far south and flights there are expensive. Most of the people we saw were older than us, probably because the high cost put off younger tourists. However, our appearance by the pool, or rather Stacy's appearance, aroused the interest of the people relaxing on the sun loungers. I noticed that several older men were watching us walk along the edge of the pool, and one gray-haired man received a sharp elbow to the ribs from his wife, who thought he was staring too much at the tall blonde. We saw Bob sitting on one of the 4 sun loungers that he managed to occupy for us. On a small table nearby were 3 pina coladas, one of which, his, was half drunk. We walked up and said hello to Bob. Stacy unbuttoned her beach robe, shrugged it off her shoulders, and tossed it onto one of the sun loungers. I imagined that many pairs of eyes were following her movements, appreciating the appearance of the new arrival in a bikini. Stacy leaned over, another popular move I assumed, and took one of the drinks and took a few long gulps. She sighed contentedly. Delicious, I needed this. She took another long sip. Stacy looked at Bob. Where's Carol? She asked. Bob nodded towards the far end of the pool, and we saw Carol sitting on the edge of the pool, her legs dangling in the water. Her bikini was orange, and from what we could see from this distance, it looked really good on her. Her drink sat next to her. Carol noticed our glance and waved at us. Stacy waved back and announced, I'll go and join her. Be sure to save the suns for us. We won't be long. Glad you liked the drink, Stacy, Bob called after her. You owe me now. Stacy looked over her shoulder as she walked away. No, you shouldn't. Bob looked a little upset at her curt response. Your wife isn't too friendly today. Is everything okay? He asked. Yes, she's fine. She just really needs this vacation to relax a little. Speaking of your vacation, why did it take you so long to get to the pool? You've already started your honeymoon, haven't you? He teased. Look, Bob, I've probably said too much already. I'm not going to tell you what Stacy and I do or don't do. Like I said on the plane, Stacy will be mad if she finds out I told you anything. So let's just leave it at that, okay? Okay, I understand. Say no more. But you have a very happy look on your face, so I know you've already had a little fun since you arrived. Okay, I won't bother you anymore. But I'll say it again, you are a very happy person. And you too, I replied. Look there. Our wives have attracted the attention of 2 young guys. As I said this, I nodded towards where Stacy and Carol were sitting. 2 young dark-haired men swam up to them, and were now trying to start a conversation. I watched this for a couple of minutes and saw that our wives were not pushing these two young men away. All four of them were smiling cheerfully about something. Stacy said something to one of them and raised her empty glass. The guy jumped out of the pool and literally ran to the pool bar. Stacy asked him to bring her a fresh drink, and he was more than happy to oblige. Carol then did the same, and the second guy jumped out of the pool and ran towards his friend. Stacy and Carol giggled and whispered like girlfriends. They enjoyed the attention of the young men and were clearly pleased by their willingness to please the two women. "These guys are hitting on our wives," Bob muttered. "They definitely do, and I can't blame them for it," I replied. "Look around the pool. Most of the people are much older, and our wives are closest to their age, although I would say the ladies are 10 years older than these guys." "I still don't like it," Bob muttered. "I'll tell you again. Stacy and Carol look stunning, and we are both very lucky to have them in bed with us at night. Guys might be trying to hit on them the whole time we're here. Let them flirt a little. They can take care of themselves." With these words, I settled back on my lounge and began reading the book that I had brought with me. Bob grumbled a little more, and then leaned back and closed his eyes. After I read for a while, I looked again at the opposite side of the pool. Both wives were still sitting on the edge of the pool, happily dangling their legs in the water. They were laughing and joking with the two guys, who now came even closer. The guys rested their elbows on the edge of the pool, just inches from the women's bare legs. The guys did not hide their interest, and the girls were clearly flirting with them. Suddenly, one of them stood up in the pool, put his hand on Stacy's thigh, and said something. Stacy threw her head back and laughed, then casually reached down, took his hand, and placed it back on the side of the pool. She and Carol continued to laugh and shake their heads, and then Carol pointed at us. Both guys turned around and looked at me, and I waved at them in a friendly manner. Still smiling, Stacy said something to them. At this moment, the guys began to slowly swim away from our wives. I heard Carol shout "bye," and then she and Stacy stood up and walked towards us. They sat down on their lounge chairs, still giggling like guilty schoolgirls. "What did those two idiots want?" Bob muttered, still dissatisfied. He only pretended to be asleep while watching the entire episode. "They weren't jerks, they were nice guys," Carol laughed. "They were obviously shocked when Stacy told them we were married and here with our husbands. They thought we were two divorced ladies looking for adventure." "Nice guys, huh? Well, of course. They were only interested in one thing, and that was what you were sitting on. Where were they from?" Bob wasn't going to calm down so easily. "Don't be so grumpy, Bob," Carol scolded him. "They were Tony and Frank from Newark. Just university kids who came here on vacation. I can't blame them for hitting on us, since we seem to be the only women here who are close in age to them, as far as I can tell." I decided to intervene before Bob said anything that would upset Carol. "Can't blame them," I announced. "You both look stunning. What were you laughing so hard about at the end?" Stacy answered me, still smiling from her recent meeting. "They invited us into their room to smoke and have fun." It's easy to guess what they meant by fun. Also, Tony was starting to get a little cocky, so I decided it was time to end the game. But they were nice young guys, and I was a little tempted by the offer. She winked at me as she said the last sentence. "Good decision," I laughed, intending to keep the conversation light. I don't want to start a fight defending my wife's honor, especially on the first day of our vacation. "Blame it on Barbados, honey," Stacy said. "I have a clear feeling that this is a very romantic island. I can already feel it. And now, as I see, the sun is beginning to set below the horizon. What do you say if we go back to our rooms, get cleaned up, and go to dinner? I've heard there are some great restaurants at the resort. I want to try a local delicacy, flying fish. They say she's excellent." And so we did. The flying fish was really excellent, as was the salad made from local vegetables. Bob and I each drank a couple of Banks beers, while our wives enjoyed white wine. The local band played mostly calypso music, but some tunes were suitable for dancing. Stacy looked slim and gorgeous in my arms as we danced. Carol insisted that I dance with her too, and she was just as warm and soft and cozy. It was a great way to end the first day of our vacation. But it wasn't the end of the day. When we got back to our room, Stacy announced that she was going to take a shower to remove the sunscreen. She quickly undressed and went to the bathroom. I noticed that some areas of her skin were red from the bright Barbados sun. She would have to be careful tomorrow, or she might get sunburned, and it would ruin her vacation, and at the same time mine. When she came out of the bathroom, she looked fresh and cheerful. I was already in bed and waiting for her. I suspected she wasn't ready for bed. Still naked, she slid under the sheets and pressed herself against me. "Without pajamas?" I asked, although the answer was obvious. "I didn't take them with me," she whispered. "What's the point of putting something on if it's going to be taken off in a minute?" Common sense. I didn't take them either. We made love. "How do you like it, dear?" "Incredible. You are a great lover." "Is it time to sleep?" "Oh, yes," she whispered sleepily, kissing me lightly on the lips. "I'll sleep like the dead." Our first day in Barbados is over. Stacy woke up early the next morning. She was cheerful and joyful while we were getting ready for breakfast. She wore another eye-catching bikini, this time in burgundy and white, and looked stunning as always. She put her robe back on to maintain some decorum in the restaurant. "Thank you for a wonderful day yesterday, my love," she said. "I hope this is just the beginning of what awaits us in the next 2 weeks." "Me too," I replied. Bob and Carol were already waiting for us at the table. They chose a table on the outdoor terrace, and we enjoyed having breakfast al fresco. The wind was calm, and the temperature was perfect. The sky was bright blue, with a few fluffy clouds floating slowly across it. Somewhere nearby, pigeons were quietly cooing. In the distance, the constant sound of the surf could be heard. It was a perfect morning. "How are you doing this morning?" Stacy asked cheerfully. "Okay," they answered almost simultaneously, but there was no particular enthusiasm in their voices. "Everything is fine with us, too," Stacy said, and leaned over and squeezed my hand. "Yesterday was the perfect start to our vacation. After breakfast, does anyone want to take a walk on the beach? I want to see how far this golden sand extends in both directions." Carol and I agreed immediately, but Bob was not interested. "I think I'll just hang out by the pool in the morning. Maybe I'll go for a walk later after lunch," he replied. Stacy tried to convince him to join us, but he just shook his head. When we finished breakfast, we headed to the pool where Bob was stretched out on one of the sun loungers. "Are you sure you don't want to join us? I don't want to leave you here alone," she tried again. "Everything will be fine. There are plenty of people here to talk to if I want," he replied calmly. "Okay," she said, and the three of us headed to the beach. The same two young guys from Newark were sitting at the exit from the pool to the beach. They hardly paid any attention to us as we passed by. "Good morning," Stacy cheerfully greeted everyone, giving them her dazzling smile. One of them, Tony, simply nodded in response, barely raising his eyes before turning away. As soon as we hit the beach, Stacy whispered in my ear, jokingly, "If only he knew," and laughed quietly. I smiled too, remembering our role play the night before. "Yes, if only he knew," I replied, barely holding back a smile. Carol looked puzzled. "If only he knew what? You've completely confused me," she asked curiously. "Sorry, honey, I can't say more just yet," Stacy replied. "What happens in Barbados stays in Barbados. Maybe sometime later, okay?" And she leaned over and kissed Carol tenderly on the cheek. We walked along a long beach that stretched at least a mile in both directions. We didn't always go together. Sometimes one of us came closer to the water to wander in the warm Caribbean Sea. There were also times when we stopped to look at the unusual plants with bright colors on the edge of the beach. Several times I stayed in the water and let the wives have a little private chat. It was clear that they were having a serious conversation. After about an hour of walking, we returned to the resort and decided to freshen up. Bob was not where we left him, but we soon saw him behind the bar, where he was talking with several people. When he saw us returning from the beach, he waved to us. We settled down again on the same sun loungers, and I pulled up a large umbrella to shelter from the hot sun. Bob soon approached us carrying 3 bottles of Banks beer. "Here you go, guys. I thought you might be thirsty after a long walk." "Thanks, Bob," I said, "but you won't join yourself." "In a minute. Let me finish talking to these people at the bar," he said, and returned to his interlocutors. I took one of the bottles. Walking on the beach made me thirsty. The beer looks delicious. "Ladies, let's have a drink, and I'll get us some more," I suggested, taking a few large sips. The women followed my example. "You're right, Stan," Carol said. "This beer is amazing." We were very thirsty and quickly finished our bottles. Stacy was stretched out face down on one of the loungers and Carol was on the other. I went to the bar for new bottles of beer. Bob was still sitting there, chatting animatedly with 2 women I had never seen before. He was so engrossed in conversation that he didn't even notice me. I took the beer and returned to my wives. "Here you go, ladies," I said, putting the bottles on the table. Stacy was lying face down on the lounge. She turned her head towards me. "Okay, handsome, do a good deed. Put sunscreen on my back." She reached back and unclasped her bra, letting the straps fall to the sides. "Good idea, Stacy," Carol encouraged. "Even under an umbrella, you can get sunburned in this strong sun." She also lay face down and unfastened her bra straps. I pulled a chair closer to Stacy so I could apply the cream while sitting. I squeezed a generous amount of cream onto her back and began to smear it over her shoulders, arms, and back. "There you go, young lady," I said jokingly. "That's all you'll get from me today. You can coat the front part yourself." Carol raised her head and looked straight at me. "My turn," she said decisively. "Yes. Wouldn't you rather Bob do it?" "No. I want you to do this. I want to feel what Stacy feels. I want a massage from Stan, not Bob." "Okay, I'll do it. But only the back, not the legs." "Legs too. I want the complete set. I watched and I want the same massage you gave Stacy." I wanted to do this, but I had serious doubts. Common sense prevailed. "Sorry, I can't do this. It's too personal." "Oh, for God's sake, Stan," Stacy muttered in exasperation. "When did you turn into a snowflake? Give me some lotion." And she sat down on the lounge chair and snatched the bottle from my hands. For a moment, her breasts were in full view of everyone watching, but she ignored it and quickly put on her bra. She moved closer to her friend. "I won't be as good as Stan, but I'll try." She squeezed some sunscreen onto Carol's back and began smearing it over her shoulders and arms. Stacy then moved to Carol's feet. After squeezing the lotion onto the backs of both thighs, I picked up my phone and started recording what was happening. Stacy noticed what I was doing, and I think that may have encouraged her to take more risks. "You're doing great, Stacy," was all Carol said. "Now I'll take care of the other leg." And she moved her hands to Carol's right foot and started again. "That's it, Carol, ready." She patted Carol's buttocks in a friendly manner, just as I did with Stacy. "This should protect you from the sun. Maybe tomorrow you can give me a massage." I turned off the phone and lay down on my stomach on my sun lounger. This incident excited the 3 of us. I glanced towards the bar. Bob was still chatting with his new friends and did not notice what happened to his wife. This is probably for the best, I thought. You never know how a man will react when he sees how his wife feels, even if it's because of another woman. The rest of the day passed quietly. Bob eventually joined our group, and we spent the day walking the beach, swimming in the pool, and sampling local drinks. Pina coladas, rum punch, yellowbird cocktails, and rum daiquiris. The sun and drinks tired us out, and by 9 p.m. we were all ready for bed. As Stacy and I lay in bed, I decided to ask her about our morning walk on the beach. When we were walking along the beach in the morning, I saw that you and Carol were talking seriously about something. What was it about? Yes, we talked about Bob again, just like on the plane. It's quite sad. I hope he had sex with her at least last night, because it was the first night of their vacation. He did it, but she didn't like it very much. Everything happened according to the principle, quickly and thank you, madam. He just did the job, turned away, and fell asleep. Damn it, she told you all this. She told me. I feel really bad for her, especially when I think about what a wonderful time we had in bed last night. How sad it is. What a moron, this Bob. What's wrong with him? Now that I've seen Carol in a bikini, I'll repeat what I said before. She's very attractive. Every man at this resort would dream of being in bed with her, except, apparently, Bob himself. Stacy snuggled up to me. Well, now I'm in your bed and ready for action. What have you planned for tonight? I didn't hesitate to answer. Nothing special. After that, we cuddled up to each other, falling asleep. I started to think about myself. I have the most beautiful woman in the world, ready to fulfill my every desire in bed, but at the climax of our sex, I suddenly thought about having sex with her friend. Am I crazy? The next day, at Stacy's suggestion, we had sex twice. Bob spent less time with us during the day, preferring to hang out at the pool bar, chatting with a couple of 40-something divorced women from Iowa. This gave Stacy and Carol more time to spend with each other, and the conversations became increasingly intimate. By the end of the first week, Bob had only had sex with his wife twice, and both times they were the proverbial fast movers. Carol was of the opinion that in both cases Bob fantasized about Stacy. Neither Carol nor Stacy knew that Bob knew about the bet Stacy and I had made and correctly concluded that we were having sex around the clock. He was jealous. According to Carol, Bob apparently became obsessed with having sex with my wife instead of his. That night, as we lay in bed, Stacy told me what Carol had told her. I wasn't surprised. How do you feel about being the object of his sexual fantasies? I asked her. She shrugged indifferently. I already understood this for myself. His actions around me make this pretty obvious. That's his problem, and I'm not flattered. Carol, I'm sorry, because she is a beautiful woman and deserves better. All she wants is for her marital bed to be exciting and satisfying. Agree, he needs to wise up. If he doesn't want to do it properly, she'll find someone who will, and she'll have a long line of potential lovers to choose from. It's true, Stacy said, and then playfully poked me in the ribs. And I have a feeling she'd want you at the head of the line. She giggled, which I thought was so cute. God, not this again, I objected. Bob wants you, and Carol wants me. Is this what Barbados is doing to people? Apparently so, at least with these two. Either way, we have some unfinished business to take care of. I started to run out of ideas. I pondered this question for a few seconds, wondering if there was any request that would make Stacy say no so that I would win the bet. Then another idea came to my mind, and we started implementing it. The next morning at breakfast, Bob was absent again. Carol told us that he went out alone in the evening and returned around 3 a.m., after which he immediately went to the shower. She suspected that he was with one of the divorcees from Iowa. We spent the day sitting by the pool and walking along the beach. Bob showed up for lunch and acted normal, pretending nothing had changed. It was difficult for me to talk to this idiot. How could he do this to his wife, especially when it was so obvious? This was on a Wednesday, and our return flight was on Saturday. Sent. And eyes agreed that we would do everything we could to make the rest of Carol's vacation as enjoyable as possible. Stacy was rightfully angry at Bob. Their marriage is in real trouble, she confided to me that evening. We must do everything possible to correct the situation, and then it's up to them. Carol will agree to anything we suggest, but she is serious about divorce. I agree that we should help if we can, but we are still on vacation and have yet to make a decision. It's true, she replied. Today is Wednesday. This means we only have 2 days left before we fly home. One way or another, the bet will be settled by Friday evening. Thursday dawned, as usual, clear and sunny. Even though we were somewhat used to the sound of the surf, it was still soothing. Stacy woke up early, and I heard her come out of the bathroom. She climbed onto the bed. A very special early morning for a very special man, she announced cheerfully. We made love. Time for breakfast. But we only have 2 more days in this incredible paradise, and I want them to be memorable. Be sure to have a hearty breakfast, because you will need strength. We spent a quiet morning reading by the pool, walking along the beach, and generally relaxing. Bob and Carol were with us, but they seemed depressed. After dinner, Stacy told me she wanted us to go back to our room. As soon as we closed the door, she pressed me, and we had sex again. That's all for now, my love. Let's go join the others. I was very pleased to have a great wife, but I began to realize that I was not Superman. How long can I maintain this pace? Later, Stacy and Carol were once again deep in conversation by the pool and on the beach. When I later asked Stacy what they talked about so much, she simply said it was Carol's family problems. At one point, after Stacy had been talking non-stop to her friend for several minutes, Carol nodded. She apparently agreed to something Stacy suggested, but with some reluctance. When Carol nodded, Stacy leaned over and hugged her friend tightly. They made some kind of deal. The next morning, Stacy was as cheerful as ever. This is our last full day on Hanny Island, so I want to take full advantage of the pool, beach, sun, sand, and ocean. If I get a sunburn at this stage, I don't care. Sounds good, Stacy. I was a little surprised that she didn't mention our bet ending at midnight, but I felt some relief. We had a wonderful day. Both wives looked stunning as they wore their new bikinis for the first time. They clearly planned this. There were a lot of new people at the resort, and they were just as captivated by the two attractive women as the rest of them. Stacy was especially attentive to me, bringing me drinks from the bar throughout the day and making sure I never had an empty glass. By the time dinner time came around, I was feeling pretty drunk. After dinner, we went back to the bar and had a few more rum punches and pina coladas. It was our farewell to Barbados party. I noticed that Stacy suddenly became friendlier with Bob. She laughed and joked with him, touching his hands as she spoke. She even asked him to dance when the local calypso music started playing. When the slower music started playing, Bob quickly pulled my wife onto the dance floor. I asked Carol to dance, and she moved as close to me as she could. Thank you for everything you do, past, present, and future. You and Stacy are amazing. I wasn't sure I understood what she was talking about, but the alcohol had clouded my brain, so I didn't think about it. Stacy had pulled away from Bob's embrace and was sitting at the table when Carol and I returned. Bob was practically drooling over her. Well, guys, it's been a long day, and tomorrow we'll have to pack up and hit the road. I got drunk enough and danced enough that I went to bed. She took my hand. Come on, handsome, you have some work to do before we fall asleep. Her comments seemed to unnerve Bob. Stacy's friendliness throughout the evening and the fact that she allowed him gave him false hope for the wife swap last night. But this did not happen. When we returned to the room, it was already after 23 o'clock, an hour before the deadline. Stacy took off her clothes and lay down on the bed. I also undressed, trying not to stagger. I definitely drank too much. You were very friendly with Bob this evening, I said. I was a little jealous. I know, Stacy replied. It was partly due to the alcohol, but I wanted him and Carol to have a good time that night because it was their last night of vacation. Your plans always work, but he'll think about you when he's with Carol. I know. Okay, my beloved husband, that's enough talk. Let's have sex. Alcohol did its job, and I didn't have the slightest chance of sex. I suddenly realized that she deliberately exhausted me yesterday and got me drunk today, knowing full well how this would affect my abilities. I was defeated. She outsmarted me. Last chance, my dear. She looked at her watch. Time passes. Tick-tock, she added suggestively. I just stood there like a fool and shook my head. Then come here and hug me. It was a wonderful honeymoon. Let's just fall asleep in each other's arms. And that's what we did. We returned to New York, and a couple of days later Stacy told me what she wanted for winning the bet. We were drinking wine when she presented me with her bomb. This is what I want, and please listen to me fully before you react. I'm not sure you'll like it, but we agreed that if I win, I can ask for anything and you have to agree. Do you remember? I nodded. Of course I remembered, but I hoped she had forgotten. But apparently not. Fine. Now listen carefully. Stacy spoke for about 5 minutes, detailing what she wanted as a prize. It's obvious that she thought a lot about this because she had every step planned. I'm sure my jaw dropped because I could hardly believe what she was saying. If I had 10 tries, I would never have guessed it. Finally, she finished speaking and looked at me, waiting for a reaction. I'm really not sure you're doing the right thing, was all I initially said. I knew you wouldn't like it, but you won't mind, right? No, we made a deal. But in all the years of our marriage, neither of us cheated on the other, and now that will change. It's not cheating if we both know about it and agree. I'm doing this to try to save Carol's marriage. If this succeeds, the price will be small. If it doesn't work, we at least tried. There's nothing more to talk about. A deal is a deal. I accepted that I had to go along with Stacy's plan. Thank you, darling. Everything will work out for the best, I hope. I'm glad you agree with all parts of my plan. But this is difficult for you. Stacy looked at me expectantly again. What exactly? She hesitated for a second or two. I want you to make a deal with Bob. Seriously? What the hell? I'll tell you exactly what to say. There are some conditions that he must agree to, otherwise everything is canceled. This is what I want you to tell him. They are basically questions, and his answers are important. God, how did I get to this point? What do you want me to ask him? Stacy sorted everything out. She clearly thought of everything. She told me that the questions must be worded precisely, and he must agree to them unconditionally. So I ended up at lunch with Bob 2 days later. We met in a restaurant in the city center. After we discussed all the usual topics, I decided to get down to business. Stacy asked me to meet with you and talk about something very personal. She really didn't want to do it herself. Bob raised his eyebrows. Sounds intriguing. Undoubtedly. Do you remember when I told you about the bet Stacy and I made about our trip to Barbados? Bob nodded. So, I continued, Stacy won the bet. Bob leaned across the table towards me, excitement evident in his eyes. Are you saying that she just tormented you? He whispered, breathless with excitement. Exactly, and now she wants her prize. I'll be clear that I'm not thrilled with her plan, but we made a deal and I'll keep it. Bob was clearly interested in me. What does she want? First, I will ask you a few questions, and then you will understand. Okay, let's go. You must answer each question correctly, otherwise Stacy will cancel her plans and come up with another prize. Okay? Okay. First question. Do you think cheating is wrong? No, not at all, Bob answered quickly. I have repeatedly suggested to Carol the idea of an open marriage. Treason is such a harsh word. I think open marriage is the best definition, and I'm all for it. Okay, that's the correct answer. Second question. Do you think it's wrong for a man to sleep with his friend's wife? Bob answered quickly again. It depends on the circumstances. If it is by mutual agreement and the other spouses know about it, then there is nothing wrong with it. Moreover, it can even be a unifying factor for spouses who find out that someone of the opposite sex is interested in their partner. In the conditions we are talking about here, I don't see anything wrong with this. It might even strengthen marriages, who knows? This is the perfect answer. Stacy used the same words. She does this because she believes it can strengthen your marriage. Bob beamed with happiness. Stacy is as smart as she is beautiful. You are right. Last question, Bob. After everything is done, do you think there might be some bad blood, especially between you and Carol? I think Bob anticipated this question because his answer was ready. I can only speak for myself, and I can say with confidence that I will not have any dissatisfaction. You and Stacy are only trying to help our marriage, and I think Carol will understand that too. Well, those are all the questions, and you gave the correct answers. There is one last condition. You have to understand that this is a one-time thing. No repeat performances. Stacy was adamant about this. Once, I completely understand and agree. Bob could hardly contain his excitement. Then everything seems to be all right. Great. This is what I have wanted for a long time. Thank you for what you do. And he reached out his hand to shake mine. Be careful what you wish for, Bob. Now, this is how things will be. Stacy said you should be home Friday night, and you'll see her at 9 p.m. She promises that you will finally see her naked in bed. Oh my God, your wife is incredible, Bob gasped, barely believing what I just said. Tell her thank you, and I'll be counting down the minutes until Friday night. Bob was over the moon when we broke up, and to be honest, I felt dirty after this conversation, knowing that with my speech, I only increased his sexual attraction to my wife. I really hoped Stacy knew what she was doing. This situation could easily get out of control. Friday came too quickly. I couldn't believe this day had already come. My thoughts were full of worry and doubt, but all I could do was hope for the best. At 9 p.m. I was on the bed, naked, next to Stacy, who was also naked. I heard her dial Bob's number for a video call. I heard Bob pick up the phone. Stacy, where are you? I thought you should be here by now. Is it true? Why did you think that? Stan clearly said that you would see me at 9 p.m., and now you see me at 9 p.m., she replied with a grin. Damn it, is this all a joke? Bob asked, disappointed. Not at all, Bob. I seriously want to help your marriage. That's why Carol is with us now. She told you she'd be with her friends, and it's true. She is with us. Damn it, Bob muttered again, clearly upset. And how do you think this will help our marriage? Carol is sexually frustrated, Bob. She is a beautiful woman who has physical needs, and you are not meeting those needs. Instead of her having some dirty affair, I decided to lend her my husband for the evening. Clean, safe, decent sex is what she needs, and that's what she's getting now. See for yourself. Stacy pointed her phone camera at the bed. Stacy turned the phone back towards her so she and Bob could see each other again. Before you say anything, Bob, remember our conversation with Stan. You said you have nothing against cheating. You said you didn't see anything wrong with a man sleeping with his friend's wife, and you said there wouldn't be any resentment after that. Stan made it clear that if you had given a different answer, this wouldn't have happened. You know very well that I thought you and I were going to have sex, Bob said with a hint of challenge in his voice. Bob, dear, you made the wrong assumption. Stan never said anything like that. Stacy tried to reassure him. And who knows what the future holds for the four of us, she continued. Now that our relationship has become more intimate, anything is possible. She gave Bob a straw to grab onto. Bob's voice changed from defiant to amazed. I will keep my part of the deal. There will be no resentment on my part when Carol returns home. You are a true friend, Bob. I'm going to join them. I don't want Stan to have all the fun. But before I go, there's one more thing. I promised that you would see me naked in bed tonight, and I always keep my promises. Enjoy. Stacy smiled at the camera and blew a kiss to Bob. She then slowly lowered the camera, showing a close-up of her breasts. Sweet dreams, Bob. I hope you enjoyed my little show. And now I'm going. And she ended the call. I hope you liked the prize I chose, dear. I chose something that we both would like. Let's get started. How the hell did Stacy know about my latest fantasy? Even after all these years of marriage, she could still surprise me. Of course I wanted to see it. I nodded in agreement and stepped aside. Discussed in Barbados. So this is what they talked about for so long in the last days of our vacation. Stacy suggested and Carol eventually agreed to have sex with us. I hope this doesn't shock you too much, darling. You see a side of me that I didn't even know existed. Barbados lit a fire within me. Now you have a wife who is ready to do anything in bed as long as you are around. I think you'll like the new me. If not, blame Barbados. At this moment, my heart began to beat faster. Stacy has really changed. She became bolder, more relaxed and sexier than ever. I always thought she was perfect, But now I realized that I didn't fully realize her potential, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what lay ahead. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.